Do you think if people start or if people stop subconsciously taking part in these rituals, that these bad entities will lose the power they have over this fallen world? Like, is that even a possibility?
No, I think that darkness exists. It has to exist for, you know, light to exist in a way.
Yeah.
Um, I think it said that, you can't really have one without the other, or one will devour you completely,
Yeah.
both being the light and the dark,
Yeah.
right?
So it's not until Revelation where the darkness is crushed.
Right, right. Exactly. And who knows when that is? People think it's now, but could it be like the next 1,000 years? Possibly.
I don't know, it feels pretty crazy out there right now.
Yeah.
People have lost their
Um,
minds.
but yeah, no, it's the attainment of knowledge and it's the attainment through force, basically.
Hmm.
You're doing things and you know to get this knowledge,
Yeah.
doing bad things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm sure we, we don't want to get into all that, but then the attainment through growth is the other way. To learn some of this knowledge, you don't have to go join a lodge somewhere
Hmm.
to learn about some of this esoteric knowledge. And I mean, I'm just out here to say that it's not all bad. It's not all what people want to say is bad. If you want to fear what you don't know, that's on you. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So
King James wrote the Bible. King James was a 33rd degree Freemason.
that's crazy.
Martin Luther was a Rosicrucian.
That's right.
So,
Yep.
you know, I'm just saying some people like to
Did you
say that
ever?
there's only one truth and that's it, and I just think that's a little silly.
Well,
But
there's so much story, ancient stories passed around, and like you were saying, that blend into stories we know today, or match up. That it's I think it's silly to not look into it. Yeah, I'm not saying people need to worship this stuff, but there's a lot of information.
exactly,
Obviously, there's a lot of information out there, and even in the Bible that I try to read all the time, I know there's parts that have been changed and left out, and that's why I like looking at different translations, because even every word, has power. Obviously, every single word in the Bible and every translation has lots of power, and you can spend hours just debating over one word, like in I don't know, Timothy 2, I think, where they're talking about what it means to raise your hands in church. Like, what does that even mean? Is it up high? Is it down low? Is it your prayer hands? Is your hands up? And I've been in those discussions where pastors are debating just that. So obviously, words are extremely, extremely powerful, and you see people throwing them around today, not knowing what they're doing, and other people who are, not willing to have those conversations, especially when it comes to the esoteric stuff. Like when I was I bring up Georgia a lot. I did a lot of writing down there, but it happened to be a very Baptist community, and I show up and I'm like talking to people about the story about like a UFO allegedly landing. They didn't even want to talk about that. Like that was, too fringe to have that conversation with people.
right.
But eventually they opened up and they're like, oh, something was certainly landing in this field. When it comes to like that stuff and your interpretation of all this like ancient history, where you land with how, this whole UFO talk these days.
Well, I'm not so sure that they're physical. I think our government has maybe back engineered some crafts, but dude, I think a lot of it is portals,
Hmm.
right? Portals, and they come through the portal and then they're here. And I do think that they are what you would call lesser lesser deities, demons,
Hmm. Yep.
because in some some forms of thought, they're daemons are considered angels, right?
Right.
So it's like these words and the way you say them and the way that they're used, the way that they're presented to us, right? No one fully 100% knows what was taught in the ancient past or what it really meant. We could only, it's only left up to interpretation.
Right. And then
That's how
seeing,
I look at it.
yeah, and then seeing the way everything gets rebranded is so fascinating because we're watching things rebrand today right before our very eyes. Even like people, right? Certain people, very public figures or social media platforms, they start to rebrand. And I'm starting to think of those as like, people worship a lot of these people and a lot of these platforms. And we're seeing those rebrand like ancient deities rebranded into other deities and stuff. Because a lot of these big tech type places, they talk about creating gods. So now it's like we have a whole new form of god making, like manufactured gods made by, people who think they're gods because they're creating things in their own image. So it's interesting to me to see that like it's happening right now, like all these new types of fake digital deities.
Dude, yeah, and I think in some of the highest orders, they take on these archetypes, right? They invoke these spirits of these ancient deities, and they let them, work through them,
Yeah.
right? Uh, I think that happens more than we know, to be honest with you. And I think that there are public rituals that they do where they're showing us what's going on, such as, Super Bowls and Grammys and, presidential um, and inductions or
Yeah. The
whatever.
inaugurations. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that this world, yeah, it's definitely ran by spiritual forces, by the forces that we can't see, but we understand through the symbolism and some of these stories, these ancient stories.
Yeah. And we're
So it's
seeing,
like,
oh, sorry,
oh,
keep
I'm sorry,
going.
Shane. No, 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 dude, you're fine.
I was just,
I was just gonna say, you could interpret it as them being physical,
yep.
stuff being like, um, tangible, but like I don't know. I think a lot of it now is symbolic, but at the same time, you said it could be both. I agree with that as well. It's just I'm starting to realize, I'm starting to find new interpretations for things, right? I'm making like other connections, and things are making a lot more sense to me. Um,
Anything in
but
particular? Is there something happening right now, like in the world that you're seeing that you're starting to interpret differently?
um, Not really. I mean, you do see this rise in the spirit of Ishtar or spirit of Lilith that you see kind of happening with a lot of young women, and OnlyFans plays a pretty big part in that. Um, but you see it. I mean, dude, that's another thing is that I don't know, these deities are being rebranded as like you have CERN, right?
Yeah.
This place that, CERNUNOS, um, Pan,
Yep.
and so many words. It's the same god, a chaos, right? The god of pandemonium.
Yep.
And they said that they were trying to invoke the demon there, right?
Right.
I don't know if they said which demon they were invoking. But in like, for instance, people wear Nike, right? Nike was a Greek god. A lot of car names, Saturn, Mazda, that
Mm-hmm.
comes from Ahura Mazda, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Zoroastrian sky father.
Yep.
Uh, you know, it's if you start to pay attention to it, you start to notice it more.
Oh yeah, yeah, I see it everywhere. And even I'm starting to see like people in the tech world using fiction as like symbolism. I brought up Lord of the Rings earlier because I went down this whole like Palantir rabbit hole, right? And it's like the big data analytic uh, company run by Peter Thiel, and
Hmm.
that's named after the indestructible crystals from Lord of the Rings that allows them to see around the world and to communicate, which is kind of what Palantir, the company of today, does for the government. That's something that's like post 9/11 uh, data mining. And that's how allegedly, after the Patriot Act, this is how they help thwart terrorism.
Right, right.
But like, the deeper you go into that, you start to feel like the Charlie Day meme because, in my opinion, all these tech types are like vampires, transhumanists, and then the elves in Lord of the Rings are they're the ones who created the Palantirs, and they're the immortal ones. You know, they're the ones who inherit the undying land. So it's like they're starting to create this whole new type of deity in real life based on a fiction, you know, written by Tolkien. But
That's where you go back to the egregore, dude. The
right.
thought form.
Right.
Right.
That's a good point.
And like, yeah. And like what I was saying, how the church kind of created this red devil egregore that now exists. Eliphas Levi drew up the Baphomet. It probably exists in another realm now, but guess what? By doing these rituals and these invocations, they can bring it into this realm.
Right. It's like so much sci-fi that has been written that now people today are able to manifest into reality. It's happening like an accelerating clip right now. It's super fast. You know, to connect it more to what I was just saying with the Palantir stuff, they also created Andruil. I don't know how to say it properly, but that's the sword from Lord of the Rings. And Andruil in this world right now is a giant military weapons company making like things called ghost drones. You know, really wild, kind of terrifying war technology. Like they're making the robots that will fight wars.
Yeah, dude, that's like the fucking revelation of the method, man.
Right.
Yeah. You know, they told us in these movies that,
here.
you know, this was happening, and now they're actually creating it in real time.
Yeah.
You see that with so many things, dude.
Oh, it's nonstop. It's wild. That's the rabbit hole I've been down lately. It's just fascinating to me that they're kind of like creating this whole world around us.